No matter if you live now far or near, no matter what your weakness or your strength, there is not one alive we count outside. May deeper joy for all now come at length. May deeper joy for all now come at length. Let none among us lie or self-deceive, nor cultivate a hatred all or part. May never one of us live by our rage, nor wish another injury of heart, nor wish another injury of heart. Just as the goodly mother will protect her children at risk of her own life, so may we nurture an old mindfulness, a boundless heart beyond all fear and strife, a boundless heart beyond all fear and strife.
Our opening hymn, Where You Go, I Will Go, by Shoshana Jedwab, is inspired by the story of Ruth from the Jewish scriptures. Ruth was widowed and was free to go her own way, but instead chose to make a covenantal commitment to companion Naomi, her mother-in-law. As Unitarian Universalists, we are no stranger to covenant. Indeed, we have chosen to tether our lives together. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. I invite you now in voice, body, and spirit to join me in singing, Where You Go, I Will Go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, beloved. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you
First Universalist Church, we begin with the reminder that it is good to be together. And now, being here with you all, I am reminded of just how good it is for all of us to be together.
We begin at First Unitarian by lifting up spiritual connection in community. And while we often mean within our own church, it's good to be reminded that our communities are connected, tied together in one expansive movement. As Unitarian Universalists, it is good to be together. We welcome you now to this service, comprising many Unitarian Universalist congregations in Rochester and Western New York. It is good for all of us to be together in this unique opportunity to combine our churches without any of us having to leave our homes.
So we want to know who is in the house this morning. So if you are from First Universalist Rochester, can you give us a wave? How about the Unitarian Universalist Church of Cortland? Where are y'all at? First Unitarian Rochester, are y'all in the house? And then the Unitarian Fellowship of Big Flats, or the Unitarian Universalist Church of Athens and Sheshaquin, where are y'all? Who's here? So if you would, please take a moment to pop into the chat. It may be above you, below you, to the side, letting us know who you are and which town or location you are joining us from. Let's offer a greeting to one another that all may feel welcome and seen here.
It is such a joy to be together this morning. We're so grateful that you're here.
Buddhist monk and activist Thich Nhat Hanh tells us that in the old time, before people had matches, each family had to keep a fire constantly burning in their kitchen to cook with. And if their fire went out, they would go to the neighbor's house to ask for a flame to restart the fire in their own kitchen. Today, we gather 5 Unitarian Universalist congregations together for worship, igniting our chalice flame as a reminder that even if our own fire goes out, our own passion for justice, our spark of inspiration, the warmth of our compassion, our love for all, there is always a flame burning in our neighbor's kitchen. We always have our Unitarian Universalist neighbors who keep that flame burning and can help us relight our own fire.
Living in harmony with wildlife is a major component of my spiritual life. Respecting and protecting wildlife is one of my most deeply held values. This being said, it was hard for me to recently discover that there are some aspects of protecting wildlife which are harder for me to carry out than others. I came to this conclusion one morning around 5. I suddenly woke up to a bat circling around my bedroom. The poor thing was clearly just trying to find a way out, but it had to sort of dodge between a ceiling fan and 2 house cats who were somehow also flying. In the process of me literally hurting cats, the bat disappeared. I hadn't yet had the opportunity to open a window, so it was unlikely that it had actually left the house, but I had no idea where it was. I suspected they might need my help getting out, but interestingly, I just sort of froze. You see, the flying had startled me a little bit more than I had anticipated, and I was just totally wiped out. And I couldn't bring myself to try to help my unexpected visitor. After several days had gone by and there had still been no sight of the bat, I sort of just assumed that it must have exited a similar way to how it had entered, very mysteriously. But driving home one night, I couldn't help but notice that I was still wrestling with some feelings of shame about how I had handled the situation. I hadn't shown up for this animal quite in a way that reflected how much I valued its well-being and its safety. And I was really hoping that they were okay. I recognized I probably needed to give myself some grace. I knew that sitting in that regret wasn't going to change anything, but it was still really hard for me to do that. And I was struggling to get that message to myself on my own. I needed some help. Fortunately, when I got home and was sort of dragging myself up the steps, feeling bad, I found the sign that I needed. It was the bat. They were hanging just outside my front door, free as a bird, and appearing ready for me to approach them with a grace and an intentionality that I hadn't before, as they were enjoying what appeared to be a delightful post-dinner snooze. And I think this is why we come to church. Here at First Unitarian, we recognize that making mistakes is a part of showing up for our values sometimes. We aim to hold ourselves in grace, and we try to repair any harms made, while also trying to stay engaged in the work of living out our values.
Please join us in singing our next hymn, Love Will Guide Us.
Friends, we know it is our shared commitment to show up in generosity when our communities are in need. Last week, a derecho, also known as an inland hurricane, swept across Iowa, causing homes to be destroyed, cars to be rendered unusable, and food to spoil. Our Unitarian Universalist congregation in Cedar Rapids has been deeply affected, as well as the community that surrounds that church. Disaster relief efforts are in place. Folks are finding shelter in community centers and churches. Food is being offered out of the school buildings, still left standing and unaffected by the storm. And we know that when things like this happen, Our hearts are called forward to help. A call went out this week from the Unitarian Universalist Disaster Relief Fund to be able to offer assistance to our congregation in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and to the community beyond. And so we are asking you to give this morning. We know we can be more generous when we combine our efforts here. We know we can give more when there are more of us to give. And so our generosity is sorely needed in Iowa this week to provide much needed resources to people whose hearts and minds are still reeling from all of this loss in the midst of a global pandemic, no less. Our offering this morning will go to support the UU Disaster Relief Fund and thus to support our congregation in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Thank you so much for your generosity in advance. And friends, just a note before our offertory begins, a word of context. This song, How Long, by Mark Miller, was chosen for the relevant racial justice message he delivers at the beginning and through the lyrics put to beautiful music. And it was originally recorded for Mother's Day, dedicated to honor Wanda Cooper Jones, the mother of Ahmaud Arbery. And though it is not May, it still feels important to share this beautiful song and the message Mark Miller offers to us all.
On this Mother's Day, we remember Wanda Cooper Jones, mother of Ahmaud Arbery, and remember all mothers who have lost their children much too soon. In this season of waiting for change, waiting for good news, waiting for justice, we join with the prophets of the Old Testament in their cry, how long? How long must we wait? We wait for your coming. We wait for new life. We wait in our despairing. We wait through the strife. But how long? How long? How much longer must we wait? How long? How long? How much longer must we wait? Lord, we are forsaken. We yearn to be free. God, you said change was gonna come, but right now we can't breathe. How long? How long? How much longer can we wait? How long? How long? How much longer can we wait?
As we gather together in community and sacred community from all over Rochester and Western New York, I invite you into a moment of meditation. Let's first ground ourselves by sitting just a little bit more comfortably than you are right now. Close your eyes if that feels good, or keep them in a soft gaze, staring about 1 to 2 feet in front of you. And starting from your feet, going all the way to the top of your head. Scan your body with your mind's eyes for any areas of tension. And any tension you notice, just let them go if you can. And if you can't let them go, then just notice them and wonder why they're there. I will now ask you to meditate on a prayer from my heart that I put to words shortly following the killing of George Floyd. Following this, we will meditate silently for about a minute. Spirit of light and love, spirit of resistance, spirit of generosity, that which serves as our conscience in this work that we do to dismantle white supremacy, to empower the marginalized, to insist that Black lives matter. We have been angered. We have been saddened. We have been pushed to the brink once more. We are also inspired and seem resolved to do better this time. To not simply get to the other side of this moment, but to get there morally healthier, to get to a safer space for Black bodies. Spirit, help us to understand that we each have a role to play in justice work, for our liberations are tied to one another's. Give us the clarity of mind to know what our individual part is in the struggle, that there are many ways to protest injustice. Help us to find our way and commit to it. Spirit, we ask for guidance. Send us strength and endurance. Help us to give our all to this and hold nothing back, for precious lives depend on it. We will be imperfect. Rest assured that we will mess up over and over again. And we must do it anyway. May we summon the courage to tear down the system of injustice and get busy creating a world community with justice for all. May it be so. If your eyes are closed, open them slowly and rejoice the sacred community, remembering that we do each have a place in the struggle for liberation. And now the hymn, Spirit Found Us.
In desperation, we found freedom. In freedom, we found love. In love, we found devotion. In devotion, Spirit found us. In desperation, we found freedom. In freedom, we found love. In love, we found devotion. In devotion, Spirit found us. In desperation, we found freedom. In freedom, we found love. In love, we found devotion. In devotion, Spirit found us. Spirit found us. Spirit found us.
Our reading today comes from the devotional series Wiser, Braver, offered by our Unitarian Universalist Association. Robin Tanner writes, "We are gathered at a Walmart in downtown El Paso, 46 days after the August shooting that killed 23 people. We are waiting for the march to begin. Immediately, I begin to focus in on the details. Bullhorns in place, march guides ready to direct, the dispersal of signs. I am anxious, and counting details calms me. Everything is in its place, so of course I begin to doubt the turnout. It's a well-loved ritual of mine to become nervous about turnout. It happens every Sunday morning when approximately 19 minutes before the service begins, I whisper to one of my colleagues, 'No one is coming.' To which they invariably reply, 'Someone is already here.' We begin marching down the streets of El Paso, beside the Franklin Mountains. Street vendors wave pairs of sneakers as a single counter-protester musters an incoherent retort. I start glancing through the windows of buildings, on heightened alert in the wake of the shooting. Turnout must be lower because of the fear, I say to myself. Then I notice her. She's about 6 years old, holding the hand of a relative with a serious and committed look on her face. I feel a hot rush of embarrassment. How can I wonder about turnout, I think? For a quarter mile, I have been walking beside a child whose family brought her into a street in a city reeling from a devastating act. I overhear her mother speaking in Spanish, teaching her the chants, "Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza." Listen, my people, we bring strength. We are never numbers to be tallied for turnout. We are more than a sum. Together, we are the hope and courage. We are the ones we're waiting for. So ends our reading. And for those who will look up this series, it's Braver, Wiser. I mixed it up. I hope you bring that into your life. So we're never numbers to be tallied. We're more than a sum, more than parts, less than whole, only to be swept up when we need to be counted. We're more than that. We are both the hope and the courage. Robin Tanner is a brilliant theologian and organizer, and she works with William Barber as part of the steering committee of the Poor People's Campaign. It's taken up the work that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was pursuing when he was assassinated. The Poor People's Campaign seeks to address the interlocking evils of systemic racism, poverty, ecological devastation, and militarism. And their work calls us to see our social justice work as the necessary application of the moral and ethical values held within religious communities. Reverend Robin is also a UU minister, and so I feel her pain when she wonders if anyone will show up to church. No one wants to preach or sing or testify to an empty house, but one loving and lovely oversight of her question is not only is there always already somebody there, somebody just sitting in the pews seeking a bit of quiet and peace before this all begins, but also she and her colleague are already there. The anxiety masks the loving truth that there is somebody there to hear her fear. She and her colleague are not alone. They have each other. They are the ones they have been waiting for, and they are not alone. It's one of the central promises of religious community. This offers a powerful antidote to the fear that we are unmoored, uncounted in a vast universe. Spiritual connection in community offers an alternative to the loneliness and alienation that characterizes contemporary life. And so we translate this promise to our justice work, to the ways in which Unitarian Universalists seek to use our moral voice in broader society. When we translate this idea that we are there to hold the fear and anxiety of another, this ability to form spiritual connection in community, it's both the hope and the courage. It's critically important in the work of justice. We find ourselves now at this nexus of pandemic and revolution. A new virus meets old inequities on top of voter suppression and white supremacy. And we converge in this time now that will be characterized when the historians write about us as a time of trauma. A wave of circumstances that sweeps us all up, even as personal situations and community-held inheritances distribute the challenges unevenly. Reverend Lane, you don't know this, but that weekend that George Floyd was murdered, and we both tried to discern how our health considerations collided with the call for public witness. That weekend when I attended a protest from inside my car, learning experientially what the cold calculus of weighing commitments would feel like once the rubber hit the road. You don't know this, but that weekend when peaceful protests turned to reports of looting and vandalism, and despite our shared clarity that people are infinitely more important than property, that downtown building that sometimes houses your church, the people, and it symbolizes and embodies sanctuary and refuge. When you drove by to check on that building, you don't know this, but that weekend, for days afterwards, I also broke the curfew that had been placed on our city to check on your building late at night. The well-being of your community is connected to the well-being of my community. What happens to First Universalist matters to First Unitarian. What happens to Cortland, to Big Flats, to Athens, to Sheshequin, it's important to us. I say this not as proof of my own goodness or sleep problems. I confess this to you now because in religious connection, what we most offer each other in the broader work of justice is the deep and abiding truth that none of us is alone. I cannot overstate this. I cannot overstate the importance of this in justice work. Recent years and months have brought stories of activists in the movement for Black lives who have died by suicide or under mysterious circumstances. The work of justice seeking is not easy, and it takes a toll. But as Unitarian Universalists, we do not generally affirm that the whole burnt sacrifice of leaders through which all else might be saved is the theology that we have to offer. We are and should be concerned that activists are dying. The burden of justice seeking, like all weight, is crushing when held alone, and it is lightened when held by community. Part of the role of spiritual community has been to support those who carry heavy burdens. Justice movements in the past have found refuge, sanctuary, and renewal within spiritual communities. I think of that picture of freedom riders, of young Black people in Montgomery, Alabama, working toward justice. And they're caught in this one brief snapshot, a photograph, but a snapshot in time also, piled into church pews, piled into Ralph Abernathy's church, just trying to take a nap before the work begins again. What holy work that is. What holy work it is to rest your body so that you might be able to fight another day. I think of the protest support that your church has been offering. Snacks and water, a place to take care of bodily needs during long, hot afternoons. You've leveraged the resources available to you to support the broader community's effort to usher in the beloved community. And recognizing that it's really difficult to ask deep theological questions when you need to pee, you support the spiritual journeys of protesters. With these simple and humble offerings, your church provides a moral witness to justice work. It's a simple but critical demonstration to people who move to the streets that they are not alone, that we are not alone. A granola bar offers testimony to the infinite and abiding love that holds all of us, including those who toil for justice. I think of in our own community who, upon finding out that Black Lives Matter signs were being vandalized around Rochester, placed more signs so that people would not lose heart. I think of when one member of our community received vague threats for their yard sign, neighbors and friends and fellow churchgoers placed signs in their own yards and drove by at night just to check that they were safe. Religious community provides the deep and abiding truth that we are not alone. Courage, as it turns out, often means simply having a friend. We're able to take more risks, learn more, do more, when we trust that someone will be with us in this journey. Spiritual communities provide hope by having the capacity to imagine a different world. Spiritual communities provide courage, the courage to continue no matter how far off the realization of that hope is. This courage invites us to continue in a steadfast and ongoing way. And this is what some might term faith. If hope can imagine winning, courage persists no matter the score. Courage persists even if the game is changed from underneath us. And this courage is forged in the recognition that we are the ones that we have been waiting for. Simply put, spiritual community offers connection that draws each of us closer to our values, to beauty, to justice. This connection can be quite literally life-saving. It lifts the burdens. It can save the lives of some of us struggling under the weight of justice work and inequities. It also lifts the veil and saves some of us from lives too comfortable, too safe, and too afraid. Of course, it's the impulse and cultivated practice of religious communities to be together. So instinctive is our rush to be together that churches have emerged as a major transmission hub for COVID-19. Showing up for one another in the past has often meant being in person, but if we're here right now, if the hundreds of people gathered on this Zoom call for worship are here right in this very moment, you know that being the church is not limited to only one mode of being. We know too that our spiritual connections in community are different than we thought they would be. The hymn that we sang earlier, it predates our current viral precautions but it's become an anthem of sorts in recent months as people gather on the streets with masks and space between bodies. This powerful meditation, it's the embodiment of a protest song for this moment, something that doesn't need to be yelled, spreading droplets everywhere, something that still packs a punch when it's sung quietly. This song focuses not on the evil to be surmounted, but on the power and possibility held within. In devotion, Spirit found us. It ends with the promise that continuing to show up for one another, we will find the courage to continue. In this very moment of devotion, in this community of spiritual practice in which our imaginations about how we gather have not been limited, we find space. Space for the Spirit, space for growth, space for risk, space for courage, space for another to bring beauty and justice. May we know the power of stories, of people who have showed up for another. May we uphold the legacy of spiritual communities that have showed up for justice movements. And may we offer a holy witness to the yearnings of paradise on earth. We don't know what happens next, but we do know that we do not have to go it alone. I don't know what happens next in this sermon, but I do know I don't have to go it alone. Reverend Lane?
Reverend Sherry, thank you so much for your words. I just want to give us a moment just to take a breath and let that sink in, because you covered a lot. So let's just take a breath together. Friends, I am so grateful. I am so grateful that we do not have to do the beautiful and truly heartbreaking work of justice making alone. I'm grateful for opportunities like this one to partner together, to honor the ties that bind us, no matter how firm or how thin they may feel at times. Friends, I am reminded this morning by Megan's beautiful story of this bat in her house that our partnerships themselves cannot be flawless. There are moments when we wish we had shown up in a better way for one another. There are times when the absolute ideal we hold in our hearts and in our minds for how to show up in this moment is not what we live up to. Have you ever felt like you should be engaging in justice work in a better way? Have you ever felt like you should be engaging in this work in a different way? Wishing you could show up like this person or like that community. This time can feel so challenging for me around this. On the day that Reverend Sherry spoke about earlier, where we both showed up to this protest in our cars, I really wrestled with that. It felt fundamentally strange and wrong to be out there, to not be out there in the streets. And yet we all have to make our own choices right now about how to keep our families healthy and safe. That tension too between property and being 100% less important than people's lives, and yet that instinct to check on that building that has housed our church since 1907. I am touched, Sherry, Reverend Sherry, that you went to check in on us. Thank you. And thanks for all of the folks at First Unitarian who expressed concern for our congregation. And I am reminded that our partnerships, our justice work can never be flawless. There are so often ways when the ideal falls short of what we were hoping for. I wonder where you are wishing you could show up for justice and where you are feeling powerless to go there because of this pandemic. I wonder where you wish you could act, and the tiredness, the apathy of this time is just making it so very hard. I am reminded today that in Unitarian Universalism, we often tell the stories where we were the victors, the moments when we showed up, the times when we answered the call to justice in partnership, when ministers went to Selma, when abolitionists spoke publicly against enslaving Africans in this country, When women in our movement were part of larger movements for the right to vote and the right to exist as equal partners in this thing we call life. I'm sure you can think of plenty of other stories too that we tell where we are the victors, where we did well. What about the moments when we fell short? The times when we shrank back? What about the times when we gave up? What about the moments when we realized we were wrong and had to start all over again? These are the legacies that honest, long-term religious movements for justice can be built on. These are the legacies we can turn to in moments when we have realized we missed an opportunity to partner in our own backyard, or times when our pride or our hurt feelings have kept us from realizing a partnership that could really make a difference. Times when we gave into that fear of what if. How did these people before us continue forward? How did they come back from a place of giving up or falling short? When we face these moments in our lives honestly, when we are able to speak truthfully with one another about our times of not showing up, we are able to create what Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd calls authentic hope. A hope created out of real life experiences of justice making. A hope grounded in our experiences of failing to partner together perfectly, yet recognizing where there may be opportunities to learn and to do better next time, and perhaps to extend each other a little grace. A hope that knows we cannot alone be the only answer, even within this amazing gathering of Unitarian Universalists from across Western New York. We need even more than just one another. We also need partnership with those beyond our virtual walls, because it's not just us that we are waiting for, it is also our neighbors, our friends, our family members, those whose experiences are closest to the oppressions we are committed to fighting: racism, xenophobia, transphobia, ableism, classism, and many more. The reality is that we need one another. We need one another to survive. It is evident in this pandemic, not one of us survives this horrible health crisis alone. Not one of us is going to get free until each one of us is free. If people do not have access to healthcare, if people do not have access to resources, it affects all of us. If Black transgender women are under attack in our streets, we run the risk of losing every single gift these women bring to the world. It affects every single one of us. If families are being torn apart and separated by inhumane immigration laws and over-incarceration, it affects the fabric that holds together all families. And if our prisons become sites of spreading disease because of lack of adequate healthcare, an ongoing issue in our prison system, and this becomes the reason folks want incarcerated people to stay in prisons, we are losing touch with our humanity. And if we cannot see this, or we choose not to see it, we are risking lives. Because lives are at stake, my friends. People are dying. White supremacy is a killer. People are dying. Some would say our role as religious people is to bring the focus and the attention to the Spirit. My friend, Reverend Susan Smith, a UCC minister and ardent activist, told me this across the table as we were having coffee together one afternoon, way, way before having coffee together in a coffee shop was out of the question. She shared with me that our role is to draw attention to what is spiritually at stake in our movements, to keep them sustainable through access to the Spirit and art and beauty, and to be there in moments when it feels like the Spirit is low, in moments when morale has gone down after a loss, in the long list of wins and losses that make up the legacies of justice into which we move. Friends, the chance to partner is within these walls and beyond. The opportunity to show up in sustainable, grounded, and honest ways lies before us. I am not here to tell you this morning that we are here to save the world. There are plenty of other churches you can go to hear that message on a Sunday morning, and plenty of theological claims about how to go about saving the world. But what I am saying this morning is that our voices, our hearts, our bodies, our actions, our attention are needed in these struggles for justice right now. I'm saying that this is a moment when we must balance the need for rest and the need for justice. I'm saying that in order to do that, we are going to need all of us. Some to step in when others get tired, some to take a rest when they've been going too hard, some to challenge us to do better, others to be sure we are listening to our bodies and caring for ourselves so we can be out here in this struggle for the long haul. We need one another to survive. And in the end, isn't this what all justice work is about? We need one another in our authenticity. We need one another as the people who have messed up and are coming back to the work. We need one another as the people who have chosen to partner when what that partnership calls of us is uncomfortable. We need one another to bring the Spirit and to remind us of what underlies this important work. We need one another to care for each other so that life and living don't have to be a privilege in this country. We need one another because we know we cannot move along this long arc of justice as a group of individuals moving however we feel the wind takes us. We need one another to move together, to remember that we are here to preserve life, to remember that one of our holiest calls is to honor the interconnectedness among us. And we need one another to imagine a world where all are able to live free, to map our way towards the world, and to call some of us back when we have lost our way yet again. Dear ones, we have remained separate for too long. And there is so much, too much at stake. And there is so much, too much calling us back into partnership. Let us answer the call. Let us open ourselves to what could be possible. Let us partner within and beyond these virtual walls, because we are all too keenly aware of the evils of the world and what is at stake if we do not. Let us find hope in the faces of one another, in the whole picture, the moments when we have shown up and it was glorious, alongside the moments when we have forgotten what our highest values call us to do. Let us answer the call to love one another and this world so deeply we are willing to humbly and authentically reach out a hand to make it to the world we dream about. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so.
Our closing hymn today comes from the Black church tradition, which reminds us that our resilience is rooted in community. All of us need each other to survive. Please join me in singing.
I need you, you need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me, agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is God's will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. You are important to me. I need you to survive.
Let's try that together.
I need you need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me, agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is God's will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. important to me. I need you to survive.
Let's sing that with conviction.
I need you. You need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me. Agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is God's will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. You are important to me. I need you to survive. I pray for you. You pray for me. I love you. I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you. I need you to survive.
I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive.
In the words of Reverend Teresa Soto, all of us need all of us to make it. Friends, may the confession of our deep interdependence be the song on our tongue and the prayer in our heart. May it be so, and amen.
Friends, we seal this sacred hour that we've spent together by extinguishing our chalice, knowing that the flame of commitment, that fire we carry into our week ahead. We close with unison words used at First Universalist by the Reverend Maddie Safantis. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again.
Friends, as we come to a close in our worship service this morning, I want to invite you into an embodied practice that we join in at the end of our service every Sunday when we gather at First Universalist. So I will invite you now to click up in the top of your screen and to change your view from speaker view to gallery view so that you can see the faces of those gathered here. And as we begin our benediction, we just reach our hands out to the edge of our screen so that we can feel the connections here. If you are calling in by phone, place a hand over your heart and just think of someone whom you love, maybe someone in this congregation or in the congregation that you are a part of, or just someone you love in the community.
As we go out from this sacred hour shared together, may we be reminded that we are stronger together.
May we go forth committing to have each other's back. When you show up, I'll show up.
May we be reminded that our deepest calling to the work of justice, to build the world we dream about, one action, one partnership, one move at a time.
And may we go out into this world knowing we are loved and bringing that love to our communities, to our homes, and to this world. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so.
Amen.